Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we are going to jump right into this with a story that honestly, I think we can all relate to. Picture this. It's a Saturday evening. A guy named Arav and his friends walk into their absolute favorite pizza place. Arav steps right up to the counter and orders a large cheese pizza. The cashier smiles and says, "That will be 550 rupees." Now, Arav frowns for a split second. He asks, "Wait, wasn't it just 500 rupees last month?" The cashier nods, confirming that, yep, the price went up. And what does Arav do? Well, he just shrugs, says okay, pays in like 2 seconds, and happily goes off to eat with his friends. It's a totally frictionless experience.
So, just keep that number in mind for a second. $50. That is a $50 price increase for a single item. And for Arav and his friends, they literally accepted it without a second thought. I mean, it didn't ruin their evening, they didn't storm out of the restaurant, and they definitely didn't start a protest. It was just a minor inconvenience for a fun night out.
But then, fast forward just 1 week. Arav is riding along with his dad, and they pull into a petrol pump. His father looks up at the digital display board and suddenly goes, "What? Petrol has increased by 3 rupees per litre again?" And suddenly, Arav notices the vibe around them. People at the pump are visibly angry. They're complaining loudly to each other. And later that night, every major news channel is hosting these fiery, shouting debates about this exact price hike. A hike of literally just 3 rupees.
So, this sets up our central mystery for this explainer. Why on earth is everyone so completely upset about petrol getting more expensive by just a few rupees, but nobody seems to bat an eye when a pizza gets significantly more expensive? It's kind of a brilliant paradox, right? And the answer, as Arav's economics teacher later broke down for him, combines two massively important concepts, microeconomics and macroeconomics. So, let's solve this mystery together.
All right, part 1, the microeconomics story.
Let's actually compare our two products side by side here. When the price of pizza jumps from 500 to 550, people still buy it. Why? Well, because pizza is generally viewed as a lifestyle product. The people buying it usually have a bit of higher disposable income on that given night, so a small bump in price doesn't really derail their decision. But on the flip side, look at petrol. Petrol is an absolute, non-negotiable, everyday necessity. You need it for work, for school, for running a business, for getting groceries. You can't just wake up and decide, you know what, I'm just not going to buy fuel today.
Now, the fancy economic term for this behavior is price inelastic demand. This basically happens when the percentage fall in the quantity demanded by consumers is smaller than the percentage rise in the price. So for both the pizza and the petrol, the demand doesn't drop off a cliff when the prices go up slightly. People continue buying that slightly more expensive pizza, and they absolutely must continue buying the slightly more expensive petrol. But if both are inelastic, why the massive public outrage over fuel?
Which brings us to part 2, the macro ripple effect. Think about a truck transporting fresh vegetables across the country, or a bus taking kids to school. Think about Amazon delivering your packages, or farmers running critical irrigation pumps out in their fields. What do they all have in common? They all run on fuel. It's a domino effect. Step 1, when petrol and diesel prices rise. Step 2, transportation costs immediately spike. Then step 3, businesses aren't just going to take that hit, right? They pass those higher costs directly on to us, the consumers. Which brings us to step 4. Suddenly, vegetables are costlier, milk is costlier, clothes are costlier, even your online deliveries cost more.
And this leads us to the real aha moment. A pizza price increase affects mainly pizza lovers on a Saturday night, but a petrol price increase, that affects nearly everyone, everywhere, all at once. The entire economy feels the shockwave of a fuel hike.
Okay, moving on to part 3, movement versus shift in demand.
Now, if you're tracking consumer behavior, it is vital to understand the difference between moving along a demand curve and shifting the entire curve altogether. A movement along the curve is caused only by a change in that specific product's price. So if pizza gets more expensive, some consumers buy less, and we literally just move up the line. If it gets cheaper, they buy more, and we move down the line. But the line itself, it stays put. On the other hand, shifting the curve happens when factors other than price change.
So what actually moves the whole line? Well, if people's overall income changes, the entire curve shifts. The exact same goes for changes in tastes and preferences, shifts in population size, consumer expectations about the future, or changes in the prices of related goods. When these things happen, you're not just sliding up and down the old line, you are drawing a completely new demand curve.
Let's zoom out again for part 4, the macroeconomic story.
Picture a booming economy. Rising incomes are encouraging consumers to go out and spend way more money. Because of this, businesses decide to invest heavily in factories and hiring. At the exact same time, maybe government spending increases and the nation's exports rise. When you add all of this up, the consumer spending, business investment, government spending, and exports, you get the whole shebang, which we call aggregate demand, or AD. And in this scenario, aggregate demand spikes sharply.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next core concept, the inflationary gap. This gap pops up when aggregate demand grows faster than the economy's actual capacity to produce goods. Basically, you have too much money chasing too few goods. And what happens next? Prices begin rising across the entire economy. That right there is inflation. And bringing it back to our mystery, petrol price increases actively contribute to this inflation because they raise production and transportation costs everywhere. Pizza prices, though, they usually only affect a tiny segment and have pretty much zero impact on overall inflation. So Arev's mystery is officially solved. One product hits a single restaurant, the other hits an entire nation.
So what do we do about it? Part 5, How Governments Control Inflation.
The first line of defense comes from the central bank through monetary measures. They've got a few key levers they can pull. They can hike up overall interest rates. They can increase the cash reserve ratio, or CRR, meaning everyday banks have to keep more money locked in the vault rather than lending it out. Or they can increase the repo rate. All of these measures are designed to do one single thing: make borrowing expensive. When borrowing is expensive, people and businesses spend less. Aggregate demand falls, and that scary inflationary pressure cools down.
Then you've got the second half of the tag team, fiscal measures, which are handled directly by the government. To cool down a red-hot economy, the government might cut its own expenditure on big projects. They might increase taxes, which leaves you and me with less disposable income to spend. And they'll aim to reduce budget deficits. Just like the central bank, these fiscal measures are all about restricting spending and pulling down aggregate demand. Together, monetary and fiscal policies work hand in hand to keep inflation in check.
All right, let's talk about how you can master real-world economics.
If you really want to connect graphs with reality, just like Arev did today, you absolutely have to check out EconMaster. What's fantastic about this platform is how it breaks down learning into 11 super smart features specifically designed for CBSE and CUET success. You've got active recall practice to lock in that memory, timed quizzes, and competency-based case questions. It even gamifies the whole thing with XP and streaks. Plus, they have structured chapter content and this amazing interpretation lab for graph analysis, which, as we've seen, is crucial for understanding stuff like demand curves. From decision thinking to an exam paper generator, it's built by economics experts to boost your accuracy and speed. It really is about making smart economics lead to sure success. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. The very next time you're out, whether you're buying a slice of pizza or filling up your car, and you notice a price jump, will you look at it through a micro lens or a macro lens? Are you just going to think about your own wallet or the massive ripple effect across the entire nation? Keep questioning the world around you, and I will catch you in the next explainer.